Hi, my name's Benji and welcome to Dice vs Cards. Today we're looking at Arkham Horror, the card game. Designed by Nate French and Matthew Newman and published by Fantasy Flight Games. What we have here is a narrative-driven cooperative card game of arcane mystery and supernatural horror for 1 to 2 players. However, you can expand to 4 players if you buy another one of these core sets. Arkham Horror is a living card game. And what that means is this core set here is a platform for future expansions. And in those expansions, you're always going to get a fixed pool of cards. Unlike collectible card games where each pack opening is completely random. So let's take a look at how this plays and see whether this could be the next game for you. So the object of the game is for you as investigators to advance the act deck quicker than the enemies are able to advance their agenda deck. What you get in the box here is a mini campaign called Night of the Zealot, of which there are 3 scenarios, the first of which we've laid out in front of you, kind of acts like a tutorial. So each player is going to bring their own investigator. Here we've got Roland Banks, the Fed, and a pre-constructed deck, and the scenario will show you what locations you're going to play and how you populate the encounter deck. You start each game with 5 resources and you draw 5 cards as an opening hand. So each round is broken down into 4 phases, the first of which is the Mythos Phase, which incidentally is skipped during the first round to give the investigators a head start. But here we're going to place 1 Doom token on the agenda. We're then going to check if there are a number of Doom tokens equal to or greater than the Doom threshold on the bottom of the card. So let's just say we had 3 Doom tokens here. We then immediately flip the card, read the story and follow the instructions accordingly before moving on to the next agenda. Each investigator is then going to draw 1 card from the top of the encounter deck. So that could be a monster like the Ghoul minion here that spawns at your current location. Or it could be a treachery card that has a one-time effect. Once this is resolved, we then move on to the investigation phase. It's here that each investigator is going to be able to take 3 actions. That could be to draw a card or gain a resource. They can play an event or asset card from their hand. So events will have one-time effects, and asset cards like this beat cop here will stay on the board. You'll see most cards have a resource cost to play in the top left hand corner. You can activate an action ability on a card, like Fire in Roland's 38 special here, and you can move to a connecting location. However, you can also investigate. So every time you move to an unrevealed location, you're going to flip that card and play a number of clue tokens equal to the number on the right hand side. To investigate, you're going to be carrying out a skill test. And here we need to refer back to the investigator card, because each investigator has 4 base skills. They are from left to right: willpower, intellect, combat and agility. Now the aim here is to get a number of skill equal to or greater than the shroud value on the left hand side of the location card. You can buff this number by discarding cards with matching symbols from your hand. And the reason you might want to do this is because every skill test in the game is going to add an element of randomness to it, because you're going to draw 1 token from the chaos bag, which you populate based on the level of difficulty that you're playing the game at. So here we draw a 0. So Roland's base skill of 3 is going to stay that, which is then going to be equal to or greater than the shroud value on the location. So you successfully investigate and take 1 clue token. Clue tokens you're going to use throughout the game, because as soon as you've got equal to or greater than the number of clues on the current act card, you're going to cash that in and then flip the app card similarly to what you did with the agenda card earlier, read the story and follow the instructions accordingly. You can fight or engage an enemy. So to fight, again, it's going to be another skill test, but this time you're going to be comparing your combat skill to the monster's fight skill in the top left hand side. To engage an enemy, you might want to stop one of your colleagues getting viciously murdered and you'll draw their attention so that they engage you. You can evade an enemy so that they don't attack you in the next phase. So in this instance, you're going to compare your agility to the monster's evade skill in the top right hand corner. We then move on to the enemy phase. So if there are any enemies currently spawned at your location, they're going to do a number of damage equal to the symbol on the left here, and a number of horror equal to the number on the right to your investigator. You'll see each investigator has a damage threshold in red there, so Roland has 9, and a horror threshold in blue here, and Roland has 5. As soon as your investigator takes damage or horror equal to their threshold, they are eliminated. Finally, we have the upkeep phase. This is kind of like a clean-up phase, but here we're going to be drawing a card and gaining a resource. We're also going to check to see if we have more than 8 cards, because if we do, we're going to have to discard down to 8. Rounds carry on like that until you either fully advance the act deck, fully advance the agenda deck, or all investigators are eliminated. So that's how the game plays. Here's what I thought of it. So in terms of gameplay, what I would say is how smooth each round is. There aren't any wasted phases. There isn't much in the way of downtime with 2 players. Maybe that's the case with 4 players, but I don't imagine it's going to be too difficult. There's nothing spectacular about the gameplay, but it is fundamentally strong. Which brings me to the look and feel of the game and its theme. And this is where its strong point is. So if you're a fan of Lovecraft and his mythos, the first thing you'll notice is how engrossed you are in the story. The art style is uniform across all the cards, which isn't always the case in card games. But functionally you're playing as much as a story, you're being part of a story much as you are playing a card game. So in the tutorial that you saw earlier, I was unable to progress the act deck before the agenda deck got me. But instead of thinking, I've not completed the game, I've not won the game, all the game instructed me to do was read a passage out in the scenario guide called a resolution, depending on how you performed in the game, and it advanced the story. It's at that point I thought, it was, how liberating is that? It didn't matter if I won or lost, I'm still going to move on to the next part of the campaign. My investigator might be battered or bruised in so doing, but not prohibitively so that you can't enjoy the rest of the scenarios. So this is absolutely where the strongest point of the game is. You're immersed in the theme of the game in all parts from the start to the finish. So who is this game for? Well, it's a medium weight game, which means that if you're new to the hobby, it's not necessarily going to be your first choice. However, there's nothing overwhelmingly difficult about the gameplay mechanics, so if you're a big fan of the Lovecraft mythos, then this may be worth a shout. If you like Lord of the Rings, the card game, also published by Fantasy Flight Games, then this shares a lot of gameplay mechanics with that game and could be well worth your time and effort. So what do I like about the game? Well, as I've already mentioned, it's feeling part of a story as much as you are playing a game that makes this game stand out from its peers. You're immersed in this story from start to finish, and this is by far the best part of playing Arkham Horror. In terms of what I didn't like, nothing particularly stands out. I would say that this core set is only going to give you a finite amount of gameplay. There is just 3 scenarios in the box, and it obviously relies on you to buy future products for you to expand that story, play new campaigns and the like. So with all that being said, Dice versus Cards are going to give a final score of 8 out of 10. However, it's worth noting, because this really is a good game, is that this score would be higher if we were rating Arkham Horror the card game and all of its products. Because you're only getting so much in the core set, that's why we've given an 8 out of 10. That's it from me. I'll see you next time.